we give you the facts. It's not what you think. Popeye Newsling, Young King, 1 yard, bless.
Good morning, Popeye. Grandma watch Popeyes every morning and every night.
What am I think? What am I think? You're listening to Popeye News Links. This is the Admiral Tibet who I represent, and remember, the time is so serious, cantankerous and dangerous. This is Popeye News Links.
The first verse of the national anthem, it goes like this. Sing with me. Yeah man, stand up. Anywhere you are right now, get up and stand up. Stand at attention. You can stand at ease. Eternal Father, bless our land. Guard us with thy mighty hand. Keep us free from evil powers. Be our light through countless hours. To our leaders, great defender, grant true wisdom from above. Justice, truth be ours forever. Jamaica, land we love. Jamaica, 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 land we love. So, here's some out, you know, when I was singing the chorus. Boom. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening. Oh no do. So when are you hearing me? Just tell me that you're hearing me. Are you hearing me? Just tell me if you are hearing me. Just want to confirm. Good evening, good evening, good evening. All right, bless upon yourself. All right, so as you can see at the bottom of the screen, we're going to be inviting Esther to come on, but we are going to be asking you, please, Esther is going to make a presentation first. If you ask your questions too early, your questions are not going to be answered, because if you go back in the comment and find your questions, so let us do it orderly. We are planning on ending at 7 o'clock Jamaica time, or if you are in the States, some places, we are ending at 8 o'clock. All right? So, without further ado, Esther, go on.
Not much, what's up?
What kind of, hold on, let me fix up the Esther, because I don't understand what kind of screen this is. Hold on.
Oh, the small something?
Yeah.
Oh. I have no idea.
Hold on, it last, you know. Hold on. What kind of screen this? Oh, okay. But a circle, you know. Yeah, you know what,
circle. So I notice.
Yeah, man, what go on, Esther?
It's hot. That's the first thing. It's very, very hot here. I think they have some kind of heat. Yeah, man, they have some kind of heat advisory. In fact, they said it's going to get as high as 105.
Okay.
So it's extremely hot. Even in my office right now, the sun is coming over on the glass. So even though the air is on, you can still feel it. So.
Okay.
So it's kind of this time of evening, funny enough, you know, the days are long.
So when it's cold, and when it's hot, it's hot.
When it's hot, it's hot. So maybe in Maryland, you get the full stretch.
Yeah, man.
Full stretch of it from very cold to very hot and in between. So today's one of those extremely hot days. But
so Esther, without further ado, there's a lot happening in as far as immigration is concerned. I mean, a lot of people are agitated, a lot of people are afraid. So, without further ado, just tell us what is happening from your perspective.
My perspective. Well, yeah, you're right. A lot has been going on, just a whole lot. I mean, sometimes it's even hard for us as attorneys to keep track. It's almost every second you hear something different. Something new on news, is a new executive order, something else has changed or whatever it is. So that's one of the first things, is that it's constantly changing. Yes, in the middle of that, there are, like rumors and stuff like that. But yes, things are constantly changing. And so we have to try our best to stay on top of things. What I did this evening was that I just made some quick notes. It's not necessarily in order, but I made some quick notes just to talk a little bit about what I have seen happening and just give a little bit of advice and just, basically. So one of the first things I had written down on my paper this evening was not to go to your ICE check-in alone. Yeah. So a lot of people have ICE check-ins, and, in the past, they could go by themselves, just go in, they just make note that you came in, that they saw you, and they'll write down, okay, we'll see you in a year from now. We'll see you 6 years from now. So not 6 years, 6 months from now. So you had people who did that last year, and their 1 year check-in is now coming up now. My advice to them is don't go alone. Get an attorney to go with you. And that's simply because people are getting detained at their ICE check-ins. Of course, there's a reason behind why they're getting detained, but sometimes you personally may not know, if something is on your record that you did not know about or whatever it is. So It's better for you to just go with an attorney and everything is fine. And you come back home and you feel like you didn't waste the money because you paid the lawyer, nothing happened, than to go by yourself and then you get detained. And then it opens up a whole new can of worms.
Yes.
So I can say, if you go with an attorney, it could help. Yes, there are times that you may go with an attorney and they may still elect to detain you. But at least at that point, they immediately know you have representation and there's some things the attorney can do, on the spot for you, even if ICE is making a determination at that point that you need to be detained. Yeah. So that's one of the first things I wanted to talk about. Another thing I wanted to mention was that all the cases are being interviewed now. I think I brought it up the last time. We have the interviews for naturalization and for marriage-based cases. And last year and the year before, there were a lot of what they call interview waivers, basically, in terms of the interviews were waived. So a lot of people got their green cards in the mail. They applied, they sent in their documents, and before they knew it, they got an approval, whether it was a year late, a year and a half, 6 months later, whatever it is. They did not have to go in and see an immigration officer at the field office. Because, everybody was always afraid of that, or they know about that, but they had tried this thing where they, if the case looked pretty good on paper, like the evidence was there, everything lined up, they elected to just waive the interview and just, award the green card. Mm-hmm. That's no longer the case. There are some cases that are being approved without interview, but from what I have seen, those are cases that were sent in last year. So it's kind of like they're still under, not necessarily the old administration, but if you want to put it that way, sure. Mm-hmm. So I've gotten some approvals where we still didn't go to an interview. And I'm talking approvals that came in like last week and like maybe like a month or so ago. But those are cases I filed last year, April. Okay. All the cases that I have filed since January are coming up for interviews. Okay. One of the things that I noticed is that the interviews are also coming up quickly. Mm-hmm. It can be a good or a bad thing. I see that the naturalization cases that I have been filing, all the naturalization cases that I filed in May, they are coming up for interview in July. So you're talking month and a half, almost 2 months, and you're getting an interview date. Mm-hmm. So for naturalization, that's not really a bad thing, because if you're trying to get citizenship, then you want it as quickly as possible, So it's not a bad thing if you apply in May and you're now getting an interview date for July. Yes. Usually it's dependent on where you live. So sometimes, it could be like Baltimore or Miami or New York. Each office processes in its own time. Mm-hmm. So you'll see some, like, traditionally, I would see Baltimore process naturalization in like 9 months. Yes. For example. And then you'll turn around and see somewhere like Miami may do 6 months. So normally people ask me about naturalization, I would say to them, it's going to depend where you live and what field office has jurisdiction over your application. Mm-hmm. But lately, I have noticed that no matter where the client is located, everybody seems to be processing them pretty quickly. Because I have one in New York, one in Miami, one in Baltimore. Those are the three I can think of off the top of my head that I filed in May, and they already have interviews. And I've seen other attorneys say the same thing. So that's for naturalizations, right? For marriage-based green card interviews, the interviews, they're coming decent time too. I have a case I filed, I want to say late March. Mm-hmm. That has come up for interview already. Late March this year? Yes. Really? Yeah. Yes, and they have them now for an interview. I haven't gotten the date. I just got the notification that it's about to come up for interview. But right across the board, all the attorneys, we have like a network of attorneys that we all talk to each other daily, just, sharing war stories about all that's happening. And it's the same. Everybody's been slammed with interviews because we've gone from hardly going to interviews anymore unless really needed to now every single case being scheduled for an interview. So now it's a case of us like always being in court, either being in court or being at the field office, because almost every single case that we have is now being called up for a physical interview. So, there's that. So there's all the cases are, like I said, are being interviewed.
Yes.
Another thing I noticed that's happening is that denials. So when cases get denied now, the likelihood of getting an NTA is very likely. So an NTA is known as a notice to appear, and that's notice to appear in immigration court. So say, for example, you applied and for whatever reason your case got denied. Could be a myriad of reasons. Maybe you didn't have an affidavit of support or something, or maybe just didn't believe the marriage, whatever it is. Say you applied and you got denied. In times past, you pretty much, were left alone to just kind of lay low and figure out your life to see what you're going to do next, or if you're going to appeal or whatever. Lately, what we have been seeing more and more is that about 30 days or so after your case has been denied, here comes a notice to appear to go to immigration court. So that puts a new twist on things.
Okay.
Because first you would be like, okay, I got denied. So, well, boy, don't know what I'm going to do, or I'm going to see what options I have. And there's no pressure on you, you kind of reapply when you're good and ready, or try something else when you're good and ready. However, with this new, what do you call it, thing in the process where NTAs are more and more being introduced, you are now forced into a position where you're going to have to appear in court probably within the next few months to answer to why you're here without status.
Wow.
So it could have been that you were visa overstay, came here on a visa, overstayed, and then you married somebody and it didn't work out. I don't know. I'm just making something up just to make a point. So now you get an NTA to go to court. And when you go to court, you now have to explain to the judge, why are you in this country having overstayed your visa?
Yes.
And now to have to make a case as to what your options are to try to remain in the country. So at that point, then you have to, with your attorney, you're going to have to come up, what will your options be? What will your form of relief be?
Yes.
So that's one of the big things that we see coming up. And so it's kind of like almost being prepared, almost like being prepared ahead of time. Or the minute you get a denial, then we're on the lookout for an NTA. We're on the lookout for an NTA to say, yeah, it's probably going to come. And if it comes, this is what we're going to do.
Yes.
So that's kind of like, that's one of the things that we've been noticing a lot, that we've seen NTAs come. In fact, I had one even recently. The NTA came months after. So it was so shocking. It was just like, but to be honest, one theory that we've come up with is that it seems that in some ways they may be using some type of artificial intelligence to scan the systems to pick up certain types of cases. Because even with the different types of AIs now, you can actually type and tell it what to search for. So say you want to tell it, say you have a big document. I'll give you an example. You have a big document and you can put the document in artificial intelligence and say to it, can you show me everywhere in this document where this happens, and summarize it? I feel like they're doing the same thing. They're probably saying, can you see where all the people who applied for a green card, who are visa overstays, who now have a denial?
Okay.
I can't say for sure this is what is happening. This is completely just one of my theories, but there's something that they're also able to, they're using to be able to like select people. So just be on the lookout for notice to appear. And why those are important also is that if you have an NTA and you don't go to court, the judge is going to order you removed. Even if you're not there and the judge orders you removed, it holds the same weight as if you were standing there when the judge ordered you removed.
Yes.
And I could use this to even segue into, other things that I had on my paper here. That's why, you see a lot of things on the news and people being detained and held on to, and they'll say, oh, he never committed a crime, he never do anything, and the news may not give all of it, but when you search back into the person's history, you'll find more than likely there was a removal order. At some point, a judge had ordered them removed, but the person didn't know.
Yes.
I didn't know because one, maybe they weren't at court because they never got notice of the court, type of thing. And all of that would have started with an NTA. At some point, they had gotten a notice to appear in court, which is why it's very important that USCIS and Immigration Court has a current address for you. If you're, working through whatever part of the immigration process and you move, it is very important that they know where you currently are. Yes, and they're like, yeah, I really want them to find me or whatever. That's true, and I get that. But on the flip side of that is that you could be ordered removed or you miss a very important notice, and then it further complicates your case.
Yes.
A lot of the people that you see fighting now when they tell the stories. I mean, I saw one the other day, it was like a Marine guy, and I think his wife, she has a young baby, and they talk about, she's still breastfeeding the baby, and he's a military, and he's married to this lady, and she had filed for her green card already, and somehow ICE came. I think they came on the military base and took her off, and she's in detention. And in her case, it's because she has an old removal order. So most of the times when you see, it's because they have an old removal order. Sometimes it is. I saw one case recently where the person, they came here as a child with their parent. So they came with their parent, they were like, I don't know, it's like 10, 11 years old. And they stayed here for like a year and then left with the parent and then came back a second time. There was also like some expedited removal thing happening with them. And so they encountered ICE, and that created problems. But of course, and I'm not saying, I'm siding what is happening. I'm just trying to paint a picture of what it looks like. So then you'll hear the story of, who the person is today.
Yes.
They're a good person. They're a family person. They have people who depend on them and all of that.
But you're not going to hear that they had a removal order.
Right. Because, it doesn't make for good news. You know what I mean? But I'm just saying, and I bring this out just also to people so they can have a better understanding, if you want, of what's happening. So they can see through some of what is going on. A lot of it doesn't make sense in some sense of the word, but there is some amount of, if you want to say, commonality in some of these cases that you can see, okay, this is really why it happened. When all was said and done, it was really this. It wasn't the fact that this lady's married to a Marine. It wasn't this fact that she's already applying to have a green card. It really just mattered that she had an old removal order. Type of thing. So a lot of people,
I saw one yesterday where a father, he has 3 Marine sons, and so I was wondering, really, but come to think of it, maybe he had an old removal order.
Perhaps, or maybe he had some type of arresting in his history also. So what happened also, there have been a lot of people who've gotten detained because of some criminal record where it was not, they didn't get convicted for it. But simply because they were charged. So that's another example of what I was saying when I said I feel like there's some type of AI system that's running and looking for a particular demographic of individuals. And it's kind of like, let's see all these people who have criminal records, they were not convicted. And even though some of them were really minor charges and stuff, each time you're looking deeper into it, you'll see that. Of course, there are the cases where there is no explanation as to why the person was detained or why ICE even came after that person. Sometimes it was just straight racial profiling, and you see that where they'll see a Hispanic person just automatically decide, they must not be from here when they're actually US born citizens or naturalized citizens, And so every now and again, you'll see an example of that where they do target people because of how they look. And they just made the assumption, well, you look a certain way, so you can't be from here, which is just absolutely racist and it's absolutely disgusting. So you do see that happening. Another thing I wanted to talk about was travel. I wanted to say that travel, even though it is what do you call it? Scary, it's still possible. One quick second. It's still possible. People are still traveling. I know a lot of people are really terrified of traveling. Again, I get it. And I would say if you don't have to travel, then don't. And if you're really that, afraid or terrified of it and don't want to encounter CBP or anybody, it may be better because you may just panic and I don't know. And sometimes, like, in Jamaica, we probably like just growing up here, you say something and it happened. So you may have been there the whole time saying, boy, if we travel, we know something going to hold on for me. And then you travel.
And nothing happened. Yes.
That's right. I don't know what to tell you. You were saying it the whole time. I mean, your words alone, but fun and joke aside, people are able to travel. Green card holders are going in and out daily without issue.
Yes.
But again, we keep hearing of the 1 and 2 and 3 and 10 that may have gotten detained, and people are using it to broad brush the entire travel industry to make it seem as if they cannot travel, and that's not true.
Yes.
So, and again, most times we don't know their entire history as to why they were pulled aside by CBP. I see a lot of people where they had overstayed in the past, where they have a green card and they traveled out of the country and they had stayed more than 6 months and they came back and it wasn't an issue. But, this time when they're traveling, it is showing up in their record and CBP is asking questions about it.
Yes.
So I do see situations like that because that's one way they can quickly say, oh, you are trying to abandon your residency. And that's why, you stayed out longer than 6 months, even though you may have very well had a good reason as to why you had to stay longer than 6 months.
Yes.
So there's a little bit of that. And then there are the persons who may have some type of, who may have gotten charged, like I said before, with a criminal thing, may have gotten charged with something in between the last time they traveled. So they may have not traveled in the last 2-3 years, but then they may have gotten pulled over for a DUI. But then they didn't really go through, just they got pulled over, maybe they got arrested, they were released the next day, the charges were dismissed, but it is showing up in the system. It's still in the system. And I see, a lot of that. So that's just just a couple of the things that you'll see that may cause for you to get into secondary inspection. But it's not like every single person who is traveling is good. Because if not, the airports would be clogged. People would be missing their flights like crazy.
Yes.
So it's not, for every probably 10,000 that go through, they probably hold on to 50. I don't know. I'm just making the math up. But I'm just kind of showing you the percentage. It's not a very high percentage. And for the most part, the people who are being, questioned or held back, there is something that caused them to be pulled aside. Then, yes, there are innocent people also who may get questioned. But I would say to anyone, if you're traveling, even myself, I haven't traveled international in a little while, but I just have to be aware of the fact that being an attorney doesn't shield me either. In fact, I feel like I could be more targeted.
Yes.
I've seen where other immigration attorneys have faced questioning coming from Canada and other places, and CBP's questioning, like, what is the nature of your work? Because, President Trump, there had been some statements made that immigration attorneys are helping people to circumvent the immigration laws. So I have to just be mindful of just generally when I travel, and there is a possibility, I could be questioned. But I would say to anybody, if you are being pulled over for questioning at the airport by CBP, the best thing to do is comply.
Yes,
cooperate. That's the time to tell them, well, I mean, if I'm gonna get pulled into question, and I'll be honest. I'm saying this after having talked it over with colleagues. I've talked it over with my husband, who's also my partner, because I would be more like a hothead, right?
Yes.
And so I saw an attorney the other day. They had gotten questioned, and I was just like, how dare they? If them take them bad, I'm ready. I'm start bring up myself, but. And then he was just saying to me, that's really not the time. So I'm saying to everybody now, having gone through it emotionally in my head for myself, that's not the time to argue with them. They have the upper hand in that moment.
Yes.
So the best thing to do is to answer their questions. And whatever they're saying is happening. And if it happens that they do detain you, by law, they have a right to detain you until it can be proven that you shouldn't be there. It's really what it is. I mean, they're, officers. And if it is that they have a reasonable, I don't say it's for reason suspicion, but if they believe that X, Y, and Z, that you may have violated something and they need to hold on to you for further questions until they get more information, they actually have a right to do that.
Yes.
So it's not fun. I would never want that to happen to me or to anybody that I know, to any of you, anybody listening. But I'm just saying, if it does happen, there is a way out of it.
Yes.
There is still, due process is still alive here in this country. In some ways, it may seem like it's not, but it is. So that was that. Another point I wanted to make real quick was to say, if you're a green card holder, you should naturalize if you can. A lot of people shy away from naturalization. I'm not sure why, but I think it's really good. If you're eligible for naturalization, you should just go for it.
Yes.
But yeah, like I said, it's a personal choice at the end of the day, but it's still, it offers some levels of protection. Persons who are, I won't get too deep into it, but some people get the green card, and if you commit a certain types of crime within like the first year of getting the green card, you can immediately be deportable.
Okay.
So it's just things to be mindful of. But when you're a U.S. citizen, they have to go through a lot more to get you out of the country or even denaturalized. I remember in January, that was like a big thing about people being worried about denaturalized. But that's like a whole long thing that would have to happen.
Yes.
I think one of the safest things to do is if you're eligible for citizenship, you should just go for it. What I was going to say again, another thing I see is that in some states it's getting harder to get driver's license. Most here in Maryland, the MVA is connected to immigration, so they can go into their system and check the person's status. So you go there with an approved work permit, trying to get your driver's license. They're able to look you up, and then be able to issue you the work permit. The driver's license.
Yes.
License, right? But I see lately that there's been a little bit of, I don't know what's going on. We go with the approvals, and it's not only here. We go with the approvals, go with the work permit, and there's a pushback. They're saying we can't issue it. So we've had to be like reaching out to our contacts in the DMV and trying to say to them, this person is authorized to work. This is what the law says. Here it is, kind of thing. And going through that, that's how some persons are able to now get their driver's license. I do have a few that we're still fighting with. That never used to happen before. So that's something new, and we're really not sure what's going on with that. Before, when you got your work permit, the Social Security card would come instantly. That doesn't happen anymore. When you get your work permit, if you need a Social Security card, you have to go to the Social Security Administration yourself. The way it works now, you have to go online to the Social Security website, set up for an appointment, and then go in. Some places, the appointment dates are like a month and a half out. So it's really frustrating because you get the work permit, and for many places, you can't just immediately start working because you don't have a Social Security number. Another thing I know they're requiring birth certificates, original birth certificates. So if you're here, your papers are in process, you don't have a social, and you're going to have to apply for one soon. If you don't have your birth certificate, talk to your family members, talk to somebody to go ahead and go to RGD and get one for you. Because more than likely, they're going to require the original birth certificate and a passport. Okay. And that's what we've seen lately. I see a lot of stupid denials. Just stupid denials. And that's forcing more appeals than before. So I find myself doing a lot more appeals. They'll be like, I was telling somebody the other day, immigration, I submitted some documents for my client, and immigration wrote back to say, that picture is not of your client. How you are going to tell me?
Really? Yeah.
Like, it's just silly things.
Yes.
And like, for that reason, we have to deny your case. What? And so there's a lot of that. It's almost petty. And so because of that, we have to, we kind of have to just prep the clients and let them know This is what we're doing. We're doing our very best, but don't be surprised if you see this particular thing happen. We're seeing silly rejections. We will send in a case with the check. Immigration send it back and say, where is the check?
Yes.
Or they send it in and they'll say, the case doesn't need any money. They said we need money for the case, but that type of a case does not take money. It's just silly things. It's almost like silly things just to delay for no reason.
Yes.
And of course, the clients are already on edge. And so it doesn't help things. So they're nervous. You just sent it off, get a rejection. It's like, oh my goodness, how the case got, it got rejected. What did you do wrong or whatever? But we've just seen a lot of silly things like that. So it just kind of builds into the frustration. It builds into the stress. I think we find that our days are a lot more stressful than before. Like when I get home at the end of the day, I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to talk to anybody. Just leave it done. It's like it's a wrestling boxing match all day. We go to court. Normally we go to court and I have like a special immigrant child and I'll say to the opposing side, may I have a continuance because I'm waiting to hear back from the custody court for this child. And normally the other side, DHS would say, sure. And the judge will say, okay, let's come back to court, 6-7 months from now. By then she should have a custody order. These days we go to court, DHS is like, no continuance. And I'm like, so what are we supposed to do,
Yes.
And so they're backing us in. So they're denying everything, no matter what you go to court for, and you're asking for, an extended time to finish. Because what it is, your client can be in court, but your case is with USCIS.
Oh.
And so what happens is that your court date will come up and you're going to update the judge and say, this is where we are with USCIS. And everybody knows there are certain cases, it might take 20 months. So we may be 6 months into the case and need another 14 months. And we are going to say to we're trying to say to them, we need some more time while we wait on USCIS to decide the case.
Yes.
Before, that was an issue. They just said, okay, we're going to push the case out, come back. And if you get a decision before the court date, just file a motion and let us know what has happened. These days, them say no. So now they're putting us in a position where we have to be talking to our clients about asylum cases, which is very difficult because if they're from a country where they weren't facing any type of persecution or they're not afraid to go back, then they're left with no options.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. It's like a fist fight every day. It's like a battle every single day. It's like every day just dealing with that type of thing. Like the days just end up being, draining. A lot of the attorneys now are doing, support groups, literally like, what are you doing for, self-care and whatever.
Yes.
Some people, them drink and them do whatever and all type of thing. I mean, I'm not ashamed about, my faith and stuff. So that's what I have to lean into.
Yes.
I have to lean into, into church and intercessory prayer and just taking time with God. Because if not, the constant bombardment of all that's going on, it's just a bit much. And then the clients on top of it in terms of them being nervous and just being scared of what may happen to them, and rightfully so, then they add to that.
Yes,
so,
yes.
You have to kind of find that area of peace and to just have
do you find yourself praying for your clients, Esther?
Oh, yes. Yes. Pray for my client them. I pray for all my clients.
Yes.
Unashamedly, I say, yes, I pray for them. I pray that they have favor. I tell God, make it be that the fact that they chose me and chose Caleb as their lawyer, that when we go before USCIS or we go before the court, God, they have favor with you and they have favor with. It's the only thing I have. Because I'm telling you, it's like a wild, mad zoo out there some days. And we have seen, a lot of times certain results or decisions that we've gotten. We can just say that's just a favor of God. And we have to just chalk it up to that because, we've heard other colleagues, we talked to our colleagues and they're like, how did you get that? And we're like, honestly, we don't know. Walk into the courtroom, supposed to have the hearing or whatever. And then the judge was like, you know what? I'm going to give you guys 6 more months to come back to me with, whatever it is.
Yes.
We didn't ask for it. And the judge is offering it. And DHS does not oppose. That is God. Come and tell us everything them.
Yes.
They're on it. But yes, to answer that question, I do pray for my clients because it is what it is. It's only God can help us through some of this stuff.
Yeah.
Inter-country travel is still risky. Puerto Rico, for example, has CBP there. So even though it's a U.S. territory and people would like to, just go to Puerto Rico, it's an island, it's all of that. CBP and ICE heavy at the airport and stuff in Puerto Rico, ready to check your papers, ready to take your documents, ready to hold on to you. We're seeing also a lot of people are getting detained after their court hearings. There's a lot of that now. That just kind of started in the last month and a half. So you had a court hearing, just like I tell you, you were in court and DHS says, okay, I'm gonna tell you what they do. You'll go to court and the client, whatever it is, we do it with the client. And then DHS suddenly says, we're just dismissing this case. We no longer want to have this case in court.
Yes.
Big red flag. Big red flag.
Yeah.
That means ICE outside of the door.
Yes.
So when you hear them say dismiss it, you can't even glad because it's almost like you literally have to, like recently we had to do it with one of our clients. They dismissed the case and we literally had to be so cautious with her. Thankfully, we didn't see anybody ready to grab. And if they were ready to grab, I mean, we would have to do what we had to, I had a friend recent, a colleague, it was like a couple of days ago. She had a client, she came out of court, and she said by the time she got to the elevator, she was surrounded by about 4 or 5 ICE agents. And they were demanding to get the client.
Whoa.
But they didn't have the paperwork. And so she was able to kind of keep them off. But that type of thing is happening a lot.
Okay.
And we see that when they go to the marriage interviews, there's another trap lately where, again, it goes back to the person's history.
Yes.
Go back to the history. They're looking at the removal orders. Lately, they've been pulling out on some of the visa overstays. And I'm not even sure why it is that they've started to target the visa overstays. But like, if you came here on a visa and you've overstayed and you have like an asylum application pending, a lot of those people, I've seen them being detained recently.
Okay.
Even if they filed the asylum before the 6 month expired. We're seeing a lot of that. The good thing is, if you do get detained, persons like those, they're eligible for a bond. They're eligible for a bond to get out.
Okay.
It's the ones who are here under 2 years would probably be subject to expedited removal. So like I said, it's a whole new kind of undercurrent. We're doing a lot more bond hearings, trying to get people out of detention and stuff like that, which is what I started with when I said, don't go to the ICE check-ins alone, right? Yes. And then one of the last couple of things I wanted to talk about was just the misinformation that's on TikTok. Can't stop it. I mean, TikTok is its own university and everything in one, and network and all of that. And there's some people, that's the only place they get their news and, whatever from. But there's a lot of misinformation on TikTok because people know that they can profit from it. They know once they put, immigration in a video and say whatever, then they get the clicks and the likes and they get the interaction. They make money from it. And so they've been doing a lot of that. I know there's one going around about stuff changing July 1st. Yes. I haven't seen any proof of anything like that. And so a lot of people are like waiting with bated breath to see, what's going to happen. Now, of course, we could wake up July 1st and the president is signing something. But based on what they've been saying on the TikTok videos that I have seen, that stuff is not true. Okay. So they're doing a lot of that. They're saying, I know one video had a lot of circulation, which is why I mentioned earlier. It was talking about people that if you have a green card and you travel, you're not allowed to come back into the country. I mean, if people would just think about it literally, like how many people do you know with green cards? Just imagine, have you seen those people like travel recently and not be able to come back? Look how many jobs would be left without workers. I mean, that would literally be on the news. It would literally have to say no LPRs are allowed to re-enter the United States after. You'd have to say that.
There's a question on the screen. Somebody is saying, is it true that green card holders and citizens have to get confirmation to leave and return to the United States?
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
It's regular life. Buy a ticket, travel, and come back.
Yes.
Consider your history. Consider whatever things you may have going on. People have reached out to me and they're like, well, a year ago, I got arrested for so-and-so. Do you think I should travel? Or whatever it is. Stuff like that, I would say chill. Yes. If you absolutely don't have to travel based on something like that, just chill. It doesn't hurt. Like, now is not the time to go on a joyride. No, it's not the time to jump and go on a cruise just cause, knowing that you may have something in your immigration history.
Yes.
So that's that's really what I would say to that. I think that's pretty much what I had. I'm scanning my notes real quick to see.
Yes.
I know one thing that happened yesterday. I haven't really read it fully, but I know yesterday there was a decision that came down from the Supreme Court about third country designated countries of for removal. So say, for example, you're from Jamaica.
Yes.
You were ordered removed to Jamaica. But not even order removed to Jamaica. Say, for example, you applied for asylum and you got denied asylum, but you are awarded something which is called withholding due to the Convention Against Torture. And it's a status that if you're awarded withholding due to CAT, as it's called, you're allowed to remain in the United States. And interesting enough, if you have that and say you decide to get married to a U.S. citizen, you could stay here at your status, that type of thing. But you would not be able to, you would never go back to your home country because you had already expressed a fear of returning. The new decision that came yesterday, haven't fully read up on it, but it's basically saying they can now, if they put you back in court proceedings, they can now put you to a third country without even asking you where you want to go.
Yes.
That's troubling because say you're from Jamaica, you applied for asylum, you get denied, but you got withholding with the CAT. Now they're saying they can send you to Panama type thing. As long as the Panama government said, then we take you, they'll send you there.
Yes.
That's troubling because you've never been to Panama. You don't even speak the language. So suddenly you'd actually be sent to a third country that you've never had any type of association with.
Yes.
So it's very new. It's very fresh. We're still like reading the decision and kind of getting an understanding of it. We still don't know what is going to play out like in court. So as we start going to court, we're going to have a better idea of what that will look like. Because it may be that what we'll have to do, because before, when they would say to us, where do you want to send your client to? We would say, we decline to name a country. But then DHS, the other side, would say, oh, Jamaica. Now we're going to have to actually name a country. Because they're going to send them somewhere, anyway, whether we like it or not. So we may have to actually have a country that's not too bad for the client. Again, like I said, it's new. That's like new, hot off the press decision.
Yes.
Yeah, so that came out yesterday. So I really need to like fully read up on it and kind of know more about it and stuff.
And it's the Supreme Court that made that ruling. So that's
Supreme
final.
Court. Yes, if you look at it, it's a Supreme ruling that came down yesterday.
Okay.
One last quick thing: a lot of cases that were administratively closed, they are being reopened, and that's another reason why people who had their addresses that are not updated with the court could get themselves in trouble. Because I have a lot of clients. I think I've had like maybe 12 clients recently that have been put back in court because they had what they call administratively closed proceedings. So we had gone to court with them in the past. There was a way for them to get status or something here. And so the court administratively closed their hearings so that they could pursue whatever it is they wanted to do with USCIS. That's another thing where I'm saying, I feel like they're using AI again because something is causing them to reopen all these cases and call the people back to court. One guy, I haven't seen that client. He's moved on with his life. It's been like since 2017 since I've dealt with that client. And I had to dig up his information to let him know that yesterday I got a notice for him that his case is about to be reopened.
Yes.
So there's a lot of that happening also. Administratively closed cases are being reopened. It would have been, what would have been better would have been to have the case terminated. But back in the day, it didn't really matter. There were almost like 6 or 1.5 dozen necks based on, the administration we had and what we're dealing with. If you take admin close or you take termination, it allowed you to do whatever you needed to do. But now in this day and age, termination is what you want. You want the case terminated and done with in immigration.
Done with, yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
yes.
people who may have admin, if you know your case was admin closed years ago, pay attention. Use your A number, call into the court system and see if maybe you have suddenly put back on the court's calendar for a hearing. And you may not have gotten a notice because you might have moved because it may have been years ago. So, yeah. I think that's it. I think I've exhausted my notes.
Yeah, but you cover a whole lot. All right, let me say some. For persons who have questions, if you had posted the questions long ago, please, we have until 7 o'clock, so we can ask Esther to answer some questions. This person is saying, I am an American citizen. I petitioned for my 76-year-old mom over 2 years ago. All paperwork have been submitted, and we have been waiting ever since. What do you suggest we do at this point?
They may have to do a case service inquiry with USCIS. There is a link on the USCIS page that says, I think it's case service inquiry, and there's one that's called check case status. But the one that says case service inquiry, it actually allows you to put in the date that you filed your case.
Okay.
And it tells you if it's time for you to ask them, why is the case taking so long? Quite often it's ridiculous, but for the most part, since you said it's been 2 years, petitions for parents of US citizens typically take 15, 16 months. I have some that are longer that I've been fighting with USCIS about, and this may be something like that, where you may have to submit the inquiry and say to them, it's been 2 years and your system says it normally takes 15 months. So we are 9 months longer than what should happen, you know, what is going on type of thing.
Okay.
So it definitely warrants checking that out.
Somebody's asking about anchor babies, currently living in Jamaica, attending school.
I mean, they are US citizens. I think one of the things those children may face in the future is if they grow up, when they grow up, and they have, you know, their own children, or they're trying to petition for somebody, then the question will come up, you know, do they plan to relocate to the USCIS? I mean, to the USA for affidavit of support purposes, or if it is that they have a child and they're actually trying to give that child US citizenship. So for that child to derive citizenship from them, the law, they want to see that the child you would have lived in the US up to the first 14 years of your life. So there are little things like that. But outside of that, they're pretty much fine. I mean, you know, they live in Jamaica. I know somebody's visa got revoked just recently. Somebody called me getting some advice on that because they stopped her and they asked her to pay for the delivery of her child. And the child was like 5-6 years old, but a CBP officer stopped the mother recently. It's like last week somebody called me and asked me what to do. And I was saying to them, I mean, you know, well, do you have proof of, you know, the care you received and the cost and whatever? And then it got a little bit murkier because the person had applied for, you know, federal aid. So they had gotten like Medicaid, and they say it was getting deeper and deeper, you know. So, but anchor babies, I mean, they're US citizens, just that some things will be a little bit harder for them to do when they become adults, right?
Yes. Somebody's saying, can J1 teachers still apply for waivers?
Yes, they can. They're still issuing waivers. I do know that there is an issue now getting appointments for J1 visas. There was some type of thing with Rubio. Some of y'all know more than me. So I can't keep up with the news. I can't do the news and my job. It's just one or the other. But I know there was something, and I saw something in the Observer also. But I'll pause that question. Yeah. But I did see that J1 visas, that appointments were hard to get. I suspect they'd probably have to file for like emergency appointments. So I do know that there's some teachers here who are on J visas. I would say to them, if you don't have to travel, if you don't have to go home this summer, just don't go, especially if you're about to get an extension and the current visa that you're on may expire, you know, soon. That can cause issues, and you don't want to be out there needing to get the visa stamp placed back in your passport before you can come back for the new school year.
Yes,
So I tell people be mindful of that. I saw something similar recently, and that's why I'm bringing that up.
This person has a visa, has never been in the US, but is asking if it's a problem to go to the US on vacation.
No, you can come. I mean, when you come, when you enter in, whatever your port of entry is, they're going to ask you questions. What are you here to do? Who are you here to see? Where are you going to stay? You answer the question truthfully to the best of your ability, and you should be fine. If it is that they notice something, they may, question you some more or whatever. And as we know, the visa is not a right to enter the country. It's a document that allows you to ask permission to enter. Yes. So I've said that before in past shows. Just remember, not because you have a visa means you automatically get to enter. Yes. It's actually just asking permission. So right there, the CBP officer has a right to do his own assessment there to decide, I'm not letting you in today.
Yes. Is it wise for a green card holder? I'm thinking, is it wise for a green card holder mother and a citizen father to take their 16-year-old child to the USA and file for her?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if wise is the best word to use. I mean, people do it. Is it the best way? Is it the way it should be? No, it's not. What they prefer is that you would file the petition and the child would then do consular processing through the embassy in Kingston. And they're moving pretty decent. Once the petition has been approved after like 15 months, I would say, the NVC portion, they have narrowed that down to like a month. And after that, I'm seeing Kingston giving dates a month or maybe 2 after that. They're moving really swiftly. So if it is a father, is a U.S. citizen, and that person with that child, I guess it may have been possible that that child had also derived the citizenship from that father. So that's worth looking into. The child may already be a U.S. citizen.
Yes.
So I encourage the person who posted that question. The child may be a U.S. citizen. It'd be good to kind of ask some particular questions to see if child may already be a citizen. You would need to do any type of filing. Yes. But I suspect, not to drag it out, if the child has a visa, maybe the embassy already determined the child was not a citizen, and that's why they got the child a visa. The child was able to get a visa.
Okay. My sister's name was spelled different on the green card. I
guess you want to know what to do. You'd have to file for a replacement. So if her name was spelled differently and it's not the way her name is normally spelled and it doesn't match anything else, then you'd have to file for replacement of that green card. And if the error was immigration's error, you don't have to pay. But if the error was the person who filed the green card paperwork, then you're going to have to pay that replacement fee, which is $465. And I can tell you from now, those type of replacements can take anywhere from 2 weeks to 2 years.
Wow.
It's very frustrating, yes.
Okay.
But if it's the kind of thing that's going to hold her back and cause issues, you're going to have no choice but to file for replacement. What you may be able to do in the meantime is to get a stamp in your passport so you can work and travel while you wait.
Okay. Can a child under 18 years of age consider unlawful or out of status if the child had overstayed their visa?
Well, it's a kind of gray area. Mm-hmm. So the child has overstayed the visa. The child does not necessarily, how do you say it again? I think it's accrue unlawful presence, but the child is not. It's two different things. Mm-hmm. So there's the accrual of unlawful presence, and then there's also being not in lawful status, out of status. So it's two different things. And usually for children under 18, where they may have they did not accrue unlawful presence, and then there's something that's available to them to be able to get status. In some cases, they're able to go back to the home country, like go back to Jamaica, go to the embassy, get the visa, and come back up and get the green card. So it depends. It's very detail specific as to the details of the case. So it's a broad brush.
What if you're in America for the last years and you are now going to get married and start your paperwork? Is it risky?
I mean, everything now is funny looking, but you're in a better position filing than you are not filing. So if it is that you're about to get married and it's a real marriage and you can prove that marriage and you can go in for an interview and they can see that it's real, then go for it. You'll be fine. You're in a better position because if you do get picked up by ICE for any reason, at least we can say to the judge, Your Honor, the respondent is actually the spouse of a U.S. citizen, and we've actually filed some paperwork on their behalf, to that. And we're just waiting for it to be processed type of thing. So while, there's these days, I wouldn't want to use the word risk to doing that type of thing. I'm just saying it is better to file than not to file. You have a way out. You have a way to be able to get legal status here. Go for it.
If you were being filed for and your filing was canceled, can you apply for a visa?
You may not get it. It's a problem.
Yes.
That's a problem because if somebody was filing for you, they say what you have is called immigrant intent, which means you had intent to come to the USA and live. When you apply for a visitor visa, you have what is called non-immigrant intent, which means you have plans to go back to your home country, which is why they always ask you to show job and bank statement and all those things. They want to see what you have to go back to. But if you were on some type of immigrant filing by a relative or whatever it is, you already indicated to them, I'm not planning to return to Jamaica. So it may be difficult for that person to get a visa. There are ways around it. Just be a little bit trickier. It may have to be able to show maybe why the filing was canceled.
Yes.
So that takes a little bit of maneuvering because we know already the non-immigrant visa interview is like 2 seconds. You walk in, I'm sorry, I can't give you a visa today. So there has to be a way to be ready to present that type of stuff to them so they can consider it to see that, okay, your life circumstances has changed and that should not prevent you from never ever getting a visa.
This person's case got denied, but the person filed an appeal, and 3 weeks after filing the appeal, they send the person to do a biometrics. Is that a good look?
That's interesting. Maybe. It just means, the case is being considered. When you file the appeal, if you were able to show them, what you didn't have before, or you were able to point out maybe the errors that USCIS made when they made that first decision, perhaps, I'm not sure why they wouldn't have had biometrics for you already, but it's a reason to be hopeful. They're still doing something on your case. It's not a blanket denial, even on the appeal.
If you file for your child and put the child on pause, how long does that pause be?
It depends on what stage of the process you're at. Really, I don't know. How did you tell USCIS that you have paused it? What did you do? Are you if the petition has already been approved and you're at the NVC stage, I would say to you, the longest you can pause that is a year. Because once it gets to more than a year, they're going to send you a warning letter. And sometimes they don't even warn you. They will literally just cancel everything because they haven't heard from you in a year. So if your end goal is to still bring that child here, I would say, do your thing. Just keep it, you have to keep an eye on it, keep tabs on it, and stay in contact with the NVC about, what's going to happen next. But it would be something to do long term.
Okay. This person said they really recently applied for citizenship, and they asked me for proof of child support. The child is living in Jamaica, and they asked me for proof of my marriage. The person said they have a 10-year green card.
Yes, they've been doing a lot of that lately. In fact, recently, since this new administration, the questions changed on the citizenship application. It actually says on the application now, how many children do you have under 18? And they ask you, does the child live with you or not? And if the child doesn't live with you, are you taking care of the child? So yes, we have been put in position now where we now have to ask the mothers of those children to say, the fathers have been supporting these children. And I have seen them ask about marriages, even if the marriage was a long time ago. I went with a lady, I don't remember when, everything is all jumbled, but I went with a lady recently. Mm-hmm. She went for her citizenship. She had been married, I want to say 30 years. And most of the interview, they wanted to know about her husband's first wife. Mm-hmm. Imagine that. She married 30 years and they want to know about her husband. And he may not the interview, you know.
Yeah.
But they want to know about the husband first wife.
Okay.
And funny enough, and it's not asked on the form. That's the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened was we were waiting so long for the interview. The husband and I struck up a conversation in the waiting room. So these are the examples like God, them kind of situation there. Because he and I were just talking. We were just talking while waiting. And he told me about that wife. Okay. So when they brought it up in the interview, we were able to answer what they were looking for. And I said to the officer, but this thing is not even required. She's like, yeah, but we can ask if we want to. And she was really making it a big deal. And it was citizenship. Now, what does my ex-wife have to do with this lady married 30 years? She's eligible for citizenship. She's been a green card holder for more than 5 years, but that's what it is.
How long a Jamaican visiting USA can stay in the USA?
Oh, and visitor visa?
Yes.
I would say don't go past 2 months.
Yes.
You go beyond 2 months, you start to wonder if you have a job or not, or clearly you're up here working. So even though they stamp 6 months or give it as 6 months, don't exploit it. It's going to make it difficult for your next visit.
Well, Esther, the question, let me know if I reach at 7 o'clock now. But we're going to ask the final question. What if a J1 visa waiver was approved in your home country but got no response from USCIS regarding your case? They don't have a case when contacted.
I guess my number one question to that person would be like, how long? Well, the waiver is not approved in Jamaica, first of all. What you get from Jamaica is a no objection letter. That no objection letter comes from Jamaica, normally comes from Ministry of Education. It comes back to your consulate. So it comes back to whatever consulate that takes care of the state that you live in. When they get it back, they send it to Department of State. Department of State sends it to USCIS. Then USCIS makes a determination and grants the approval of the waiver. Yes. So it's possible that the letter may have come up, the no objection letter has come up, but it has made its way all around. That person, feel free to send me an email and I can see how long it is you've been waiting for that no objection letter to make its way to an approval for the waiver.
And the final question, Esther, if you are filing for a child, well, over and under 21 years old, if you're a green card holder, how long that usually
for a child over 21?
Answer both questions.
Okay. So over 21, I looked at that yesterday. I think they're currently processing cases that applied in January 2017.
Yes.
So that's what? 17 from 25 is what? 8? It's like 8 years. Yes. If they're under 21, then it takes about 2 years.
Okay.
Yes, there's a big difference. So if the kids are near to 21 and you can do something about it, just do it. Because the wait time beyond that is just, and then they're not allowed to get married if the parent is still a green card holder after they filed for them. So
okay.
Yeah.
For a spouse, green card holder is basically the same, 2 years?
Yes. So spouse or green card holder and children under 21 is the same category. There's about 2 years when all is said and done.
Okay.
So it's not too much longer than citizens. It's pretty much caught up in a sense, but yeah.
Okay. Well, Esther, it was nice. Why the question? I'm coming enough, but we're going to encourage people. If you have certain questions, you can always email Esther.
And in the last time, I did plan when I get back around to it, because boy, I tell us the administration has been bad. We had
come back because the questions them enough, and we don't really want to go over the hour because
no problem. No, really not. But I was saying we had promised the people the last time that we would do a show with only questions. So
with only questions,
we have to just stick to that and do that another time. And
we have to do
questions, and they can just fire them and we just do
it. But then again, there's always something new come up, Esther, where you have to tell the people about it. There's always something. That's an issue, Yes. But we have to go do it. We have to go to come back and just take some questions.
Yeah, take a quick thing. But yeah.
Yeah, man. It was nice having you, Esther, and we'll talk soon, all right?
All right, take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye. Yeah, man. Bye-bye.
My viewers and my subscribers, the questions them enough, but we are gonna have to do this another time. You understand? So once again, thanks for joining, and you will hear about we are gonna be doing one soon and very soon, another one to answer all your questions. And you can always email Esther at esther@lawgriff.com, or you can send a WhatsApp message 227-225-4643. Thanks for joining. Blessed love, everybody.